Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody. We are live. You can
We
hear me,
are.
right?
I can hear you. Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
I can.
It's been a
Oh,
minute.
it has been a minute. I'm so glad to see your face because we were going live covering SPTV news there every week for a little while, and
I
then we just
know.
we just stopped. We needed a break.
Yes.
I needed a break. I don't know about you. And
Yes,
and since we've taken the break, every fear I've had about this community has basically come to light.
it's been a
So,
wild couple weeks.
yeah. So, we should talk about it. We should probably
Yeah.
introduce ourselves. You
Yeah.
wanna go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. If you guys are seeing me for the first time, I'm Cassie Marie with No Culty Vibes. I have a YouTube channel and a TikTok mainly. I'm mainly on TikTok. I've been doing that for a couple years now. I am a former cult hopper, so I was a part of 3 different cult-like organizations that ended with a particularly traumatic relationship and cult-like environment that I woke up from by watching Scientology, Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath, started deconstructing my cult experiences, deconstructing my faith, and then started talking about it on TikTok because my husband was sick of hearing about it.
I wonder how many channels have been started because partners or siblings are just like, "Shut up. Go tell somebody else."
We get it. We get
Yeah.
it. And my
Um,
husband also has deconstructed from a cult. He was raised in more of a religious environment than I was. So we talk about it a lot. So it's just like it's a big topic in our house. And I really wanted to learn so much about it. And he's like, I just need to heal. So
yeah.
can you not? Can we? I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Let me get on the internet.
Let me go on the internet. That's right. Well, and I think you're being modest, really, because Cassie Marie has, I just checked, I think it was yesterday, 87,000 followers over there on the TikTok.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. And it's all, um, not all, but mostly cults, coercion, high control groups that you cover, and news of all different, not just Scientology.
Yep, and pop culture. I
Yeah.
really feel like I've found lane with a lot of similarities between pop culture and cults and how many cults are involved in pop culture. It's so intertwined. All very fascinating. But
It
it all
is.
started with Scientology.
Yeah. Me too. And speaking of that, hi everybody. I am Liz Gale. I am a third generation ex Scientologist, and I was born in and I got out. And I'd like that's kind of the gist of it. But we'll get a little bit more into my story because, well, before we get into it, should we just say hi to everybody? I'm
Yeah,
feeling so nervous. I'm
I
feeling
know.
really nervous right now.
Yes. Well, we're here to talk about a difficult topic.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows the elephant in the room, what's going on with the Aftermath Foundation
Mhm.
and Aaron and growing up in Scientology and the videos we've seen so far from
Yeah.
other SPTV creators. There are a lot of opinions, a lot of things to discuss, and you and I really wanted to do this together. One, because this is so close to home for you, and
Mhm.
I think that's what you're going to get into. And just for me to come in with an outside perspective, someone not in Scientology, but who has been very familiar with cults and deconstruction specifically and what it's like to leave cults for the last couple of years, there are just some things that I noticed that I wanted to share and bring to light. And so, um, you know, I just think this is important for us to keep talking about. I actually watched Kelly Copter did
Mhm.
her live
Yep.
yesterday, and I really, really liked, she said early on that we need to be able to talk about these things. There's been a couple,
Mhm.
issues within the SPTV community over the past couple months or so, and why would we not talk about it? Why would we not just be honest? We can
Mhm.
all have different opinions, we can all see these things differently, but talking about it and being open and honest about it is better than not talking about it or trying to hide certain things or sweep certain things under the rug. And this is a very tight-knit community when it comes to the viewers as well.
Mhm.
Like the people that view SPTV feel like big emotional connection to it and have, spent a lot of money and given a lot of support to
Mhm.
everyone that we're going to be just, discussing. And so, yeah, we want to discuss it and add your voice as a third generation ex-Scientologist who has a very, very important perspective to share.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I'm really grateful you're here. Just so you guys know, Cassie Marie has become a content creator that I really admire and respect. And so her being here to like help me through this is very, very kind and wonderful of you. So thank you.
I think it's kind of you to have me on here as well, that we can do this as a team. I love it.
Yes. Before we go on, can you pop up these stars of hellos? Would you mind, Marilyn? We can just acknowledge everybody real quick that's here because Kelly's here. Hi, I'm so glad.
Hi.
Let's see. That was the one that I definitely saw them. Yep. See, there are so many. Hi. There are so many people I think in hopefully watching that we all have a stake in this is the weird thing. Like it's
Yeah.
so crazy. All right. Maybe I jumped the gun there. So I guess let's dive in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to make this all about me for about 5 minutes here. I just want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. This here is the first time I was put into the newspaper on behalf of Scientology. And I don't know if you guys can see this. It's kind of small, but the little thing at the bottom, happy Scientologists. And that family no longer exists. I haven't spoken to my mother in 6 years. My father passed away suddenly, and my brother did as well. And as you can see, I was dragged into the public eye pretty young, pretty early on. And I guess I'll keep going. It kept going, right? I was on the Aftermath Foundation. No, that's the wrong word. I was on the Aftermath show under the Perfect Family because of basically the damage that Scientology has done to my family. My family was in Scientology, starting with my grandmother, got in with before Scientology existed, when it was Dianetics in the 1950s. My mother was raised completely as a Scientologist from birth, as was I. In fact, if you go back to that other slide, when my mom put us in the paper, she said my brother and I were fourth generation Scientologists because my grandmother did end up getting her mother to practice Scientology. But I don't consider that for myself because to me, the generations being born into it represent a indoctrination through early childhood or through childhood. That's just a little bit different than like if you got your grandma, your great grandma got into it when she was like 80. So
Right.
I could have used the fourth generation, but I didn't. This is the reason. This is a big reason. This is my brother. This is my brother's Wikipedia page. My brother unalived himself on LRH's birthday in 1998. Now, we were both touted as being I don't know, great Scientology kids or whatever, but he more so because he was technically a genius. I don't want to sound like I'm inflating him, but he was accepted to MIT at 15. He graduated very early. He was part of Earthlink, which is one of the early internet startup kind of accessing companies. And he was kind of a big deal. And it was really, really tragic that he unalived himself because that's not what's supposed to happen. And I'm not going to like read all this. You guys can check out his Wikipedia page or whatever if you want. But I just wanted to put this up here to show that like ever since then, there has been scandal in my life. My life has been my connection with my family, my connection with Scientology. It's all been very public and very messy. And that leads me on to say, oh, there I am in People magazine, by the way. I mean, it's just like on and on.
I
I'm
didn't
not,
know you were in People magazine.
yeah. I'm not trying to like build myself up here, but I just want to establish to you guys that I am not new. This is
Right.
not my first rodeo. I didn't just show up here on SPTV out of the blue, like, hey, hi, everybody. No, I've been at this for a while and I've been representing both Scientology and ex Scientology when I got out. So,
Right.
One of the biggest scandals that occurred with my brother was after my brother's passing away was this article. Um, Mark Abner wrote an article called Death of a Nethead that was slated to go into Rolling Stone magazine. Now, it was later published on like not Ranker, I can't remember, somewhere else. It was later came out. It was very, very long, very detailed, and I'm incredibly grateful for it because it had names of people he knew, put him in certain places at certain times that after I got out, I was able to chase down some of those people. I've connected with him, and he's helped me. We had a conversation. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. Talking about the story in Rolling Stone. Believe me, guys, I'm going somewhere with it. I know I'm all over the place, but
No, I'm like really invested in this. That's why I'm being quiet, because I'm like, yes, okay. I didn't know a lot of this.
Okay, well, when I talked with Mark, he said this. He basically said he was commissioned by Rolling Stone to do the story. They paid his way to Cambridge. He made a deal with my mom, and basically, I don't know if it's up on here, but basically, we'll just keep reading. And he upheld that. He told her that he knew what would happen if she told Scientology that she was doing, working with him. And she knew, and of course she went to tell them. Of course, like my mother is a diehard Scientologist. Of course she told the church that a journalist was doing an expose. They went on the attack. And when he says they, there's a special organization within an organization in Scientology, Office of Special Affairs, which we'll talk a little bit more about. When someone says that they, like of Scientology, attacked, it has to be the Office of Special Affairs. There's no other part of Scientology that has the clearance to do this. So he filed the story with Rolling Stone and they ghosted him. On his demand, they paid him in full, and normally that doesn't happen if they reject the story. He cashed his check, immediately went to the New York or the New Times Los Angeles, and they published the story. And he got paid again. Later, he struck up a conversation with his former editor on the story who told him, "You didn't hear it from me, but the Rolling Stone publisher, Jan Wenner," that's the guy over there on the bottom picture, "is best friends with John Travolta. He killed my story. My effing publisher."
Wow.
So, the scandal of my brother, I bring this up for a few reasons. And actually, let's just keep moving along. Oh, actually, let me go back. My mother told me that when my brother passed away, David Miscavige called her personally and spoke with her. Now, before you all say, "What the hell is why?" Let me tell you a tiny bit more about me. This is my dad. Chichester school businesses are all run by Scientologists. My parents started an entire Scientology community in New Hampshire, and it was all revolving around his software company called Real World. He got, I forget how many at the max. I wrote about this a little bit in my book. He got a bunch of people to move out to New Hampshire. My parents bought a huge amount of land and they sold it to families that were moving out plot by plot. Most people worked for my father, including most of the Miscavige family. David Miscavige's father worked for my father, his brother, his twin sister. And so there's this passage in Jenna Miscavige's book where she says here, she was born in New Hampshire and that, her parents had built their dream house and it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and they both had well-paying jobs at a local software company. Her mom is named Biddy Ann. My name is Elizabeth Ann. Like this runs deep, okay? And yeah, some people might question, like, why didn't you put this in your book? Because I'm not defined by this. I mean, the Miscavige tie, like I really don't need that. But I just want you guys to understand when I say that David Miscavige called my mother, I really mean it. Like,
there was close connections there.
There was. And Jenna and I are baby besties, just in case anybody wants to know. That's how we call each other. So if John Travolta cut my brother's story or Mark's story, however you want to look at it, and if David Miscavige called my mother personally when my brother passed away, that means that the Office of Special Affairs was knowledgeable about my brother's passing and was involved in some degree. I'm not blaming, I'm just like involved in the handling, the PR. My mother did tell me that she was told, at first she said it was Mike Rinder, and then she kind of wavered and said it might have been Marty Rathman, so I'm not totally sure. But she was told that her role, okay, I'm going to back up. My mother was heavily criticized when my brother passed away because she was the spokesperson for Citizens Commission on Human Rights. So she was out there saying how bad Prozac was and how psychiatrists were crap. Meanwhile, her son has a mental health crisis and unalives himself. And when she went to deal with the public, she said she was a Scientologist first. And she really took on the role of being a Scientologist. And a lot of people were really shocked and, grossed out by that. As we've seen, I think with our own eyes, when that instinct kicks in, it's disturbing to see in people. And I would imagine with the trauma, with being told what to do to handle it, I can't even imagine what she was going through, but it's another sign to me that she was involved, that OSA was involved.
Right.
I also received this super weird email that I don't know if anybody can read on the bottom of here that says, like, my brother called someone at Delphi before he died and their phone line was cut and all these different things. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. Maybe we'll unpack all that another day. Are you reading it right now, Cassie Marie? Or maybe she's glitched out. Great. Okay, I'm gonna go on. So I don't know who exactly was doing the thing, but OSA was involved. Cassie, oh good, you're there. I'm like, don't leave me alone out here.
I know. I'm like, come on, internet.
I can't see the chat right now because I have to make the screen big. So like, I know I'm not alone. I know you guys are out there, but okay. So, do you have any questions about any of that? I'm just gonna keep on moving on.
Keep going. I'm invested. I'm listening.
So, a lot of why I'm bringing this all up right now is because I'm trying to express to everybody that it's not so simple, right? It's not so simple that you can just get out of Scientology and be like, oh, we're all heroes now, or we're all this, or like nothing I did mattered anymore, yet we're all redeemable and we're all healing. And so it becomes very, very complicated, for me, and I can only speak for myself. And I have asked Mike Rinder probably 3 times point blank, like, tell me about my brother. Were you involved? What's going on? And he's never had any information for me. I don't know if that's because there isn't information or if because he's not comfortable sharing it. I don't know. I will say that when they started the Aftermath Foundation, when they started the Aftermath show, I had to come to terms, right? Like, I had to decide whether I was going to partner up or whatever, share my voice, share things, deep, important, scary things about what had happened to my family with the ex-head of OSA, who may have been involved. And the reason that I chose to do that was because of my interactions with Mike, and that I truly believe that people can overcome what they have done if they want to, or if they try. I don't know what the right words are, but and I believe and believed that he was on that pathway. So when in 2018 the Aftermath Foundation was first announced, obviously I was ecstatic. I think a lot of, especially second generation Scientologists, were ecstatic. The psychological damage done when you grow up in Scientology and then you leave, it's really hard to keep a job. It's hard to focus. I haven't said this publicly before, but when my life fell apart from being on the show, Claire Headley offered me a job. She gave me a job. And I lasted about a week because I could not retain any new information. my
Mhm.
entire life was falling apart, had fallen apart, and I couldn't do anything. And I made a mistake and I fell apart. So,
Which is very normal when you're in that state of trauma, when especially while things are still going on, it's really normal to, like, not be able to, like, think. It's like
yes.
being in, like, the worst burnout you've ever been in, and your brain just doesn't work.
Yeah. And that was it. And she was gracious with me when I was like, I messed up. I can't do this.
Mhm.
Um, that said, at that time, I did ask the Aftermath Foundation for some help and I was denied. I
Mhm.
know several other second generation Scientologists who needed help and asked the Aftermath Foundation at that time for help and were denied. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of that. I wasn't on the board. I would assume this was pre SPTV, guys. I would assume that they were financially constricted, that they didn't have a ton of cash to throw around.
Right.
Um, so I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt there. That said, I did write them a letter in 2018. I'm not going to read all this. Um, but I just want to say that, like, this is 2008 and I was making some recommendations. Granted, they were completely not asked for. um,
This was your unsolicited
yeah, I was just like, hey,
criticism.
Aftermath, take this letter. But I was
But you know
respectful and I
what?
was solution oriented. And this organization was started for me,
I was just gonna
for
say
me.
that. I was like, "You are literally the person that is supposed to benefit from this organization, so why wouldn't you be able to send thoughts?"
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that people around me were falling apart.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that there was help here and there. Like, I don't know who paid for anything. I can't speak to that. But I mean, people needed inpatient care. It was not okay what happened to a lot of the contributors on the Aftermath show. Um,
Mhm.
it is true that none of us got paid, and that's fine. Um, but it's very, very strange to rip a wound open for the world and watch somebody else get dressed up in fancy clothes and get awards while you cannot even hold a job down. Some
Yeah.
people did not have homes. And those are the people that actually got to tell their story in full. The people who were on the Aftermath Foundation filmed episodes and then were told by A&E's lawyers or whatever, we're not going to be able to tell this part of your story, were very traumatized. There was an
Yeah.
entire episode of one girl filmed, a
Mhm.
20-year-old, 21-year-old girl. She was filmed. She lived in Clearwater, Florida. She blew up her entire life, but because her story was so abusive, they could not air it. Now, I don't put that at the feet of, Mike Rinder or Osa. I put that at the feet of just a show.
A&E and the
Yeah,
lawyers,
try,
yeah.
there's legality. You can't just
Right.
go around accusing people of, SA and grape and all these things. Um, so if
Mhm.
you notice here, I definitely was like, you guys need to add a victim advocate or a committee of advocates to the
Yeah.
Aftermath, to the board. I think I said a balancing voice. Now I know the word to be diversity. Even then, I wanted to see diversity on this board because it's too close to home, right? It's too close.
Mhm. Well, I would imagine that, and I've said this to you before, I would imagine especially second generation, third generation, but really anyone leaving Scientology, when you're talking about high-ranking Sea Org members, you
Mhm.
might be nervous to
Mhm.
approach someone like that for help, even if they are 100% well-intentioned, and I do believe they're well-intentioned. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think we're talking about good people, bad people, malicious intent, anything like that. But, like, even if they were doing everything right, everything perfectly, which no one can, I
Right.
can imagine people would still be really hesitant to ask for help or even interact with
Mhm.
that, because how do you know how healed they are, how committed they are to survivors, and, like, how do you know who you can trust coming out
Yeah.
of something as intense as Scientology?
Yes, and the more horrible your story, the more if it involves, unaliving or abuse or whatever, you actually run a higher risk in some degrees that if you go to and I'm not naming specific ex-Scientologists in this statement, I just mean, like, let's think about it. You get out of the church, you had horrible things done to you that the church covered up or made you feel bad for. Then you go, say it's 10 years later, and you go to find the aftermath, and it's the same freaking faces
Right.
that were there before.
Right.
No
And that's
matter
what I'm
how
saying.
well-intentioned,
Yeah,
that's triggering.
that's triggering. That's
Triggering.
triggering even if it's done perfectly.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Which brings me to the next step in my little letter to the aftermath. How many years ago was that? 5 years ago? Greater care needs to be taken with rejected applicants because the applicant process is triggering by nature. You
Mhm.
guys can read this, you can screenshot or whatever you want, but I was letting them know, I mean, at the bottom bluntly, the rejection bedside manner could be improved. Instead of shutting the door in the face of those in need, other types of assistance could be coordinated. People could get food stamps, people, all kinds of stuff. Um, Now, granted, first year in operation, I was not writing this like, you guys are screwing up really majorly.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
you're a new organization. We need, we need to evolve. And we will continue talking about this because I do believe in a lot of regards they have.
Yeah.
I also recommended we need a rubric. We need a clear thing that someone can look up on their website and say, do I qualify for this? Otherwise,
Mhm.
it feels like a popularity contest. Feels
Mm.
like you are calling, being like, hey, can I have some cash? Can I have some help? And depending on who knows what, you get approved or denied. I will say the education, I definitely was like, put in a scholarship, guys. And hey, they finally got some money and did it. So I guess the whole reason I wanted to bring this up again is just to let you guys know I've been out here for a while, been involved with the aftermath for a while. Now, listen, I got a response that was like, thanks for your letter. We'll talk about it. And I never heard anything again, ever,
Mhm.
like until I got on YouTube later. Like, what, this year,
Like
last year?
recently. Yeah.
Yeah, recently. I don't know what the right words are for that. And so I lost faith in the Aftermath Foundation in
Mhm.
2018.
Right.
I did not donate any money. I did not ask for any money. I just sat back and I watched. I took care of myself. I have a family. I thought, you know what? If they're not going to help me, I'm going to help myself. I'm going to figure this out. And I did the very, very best I could. And I did get other help. Like, the ex Scientology community is so helpful. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I had help. It just
Mhm.
wasn't through the aftermath because at that point in my life, I did not feel comfortable asking them for help.
Right.
Now, flash forward. We have gone through all that we've gone through. This is the board. And I think we all notice it's not very diverse. It never got very diverse.
Mhm.
And that's all I'll say about that for now. I do need to come clean with the 800 people in here. And this is pretty much the only reason I've even decided to speak out because my integrity is worth a lot to me.
Mhm.
This Rosemary Chickwalk education grant recently came out. My son applied for it and he received it. He is going into college next year and they have said, sure, let us know what college you go to and we will, they pay the actual college itself. Um, Now, how did I get there? Because I just said I don't trust them, right? What the heck happened? Well, for a big part of it, SPTV happened and Aaron happened. I and Mike, I think Mike, well, I won't put it all on just Aaron, but I think Aaron was a really big part because I believe that I watched him evolve in front of my eyes. There's been a lot of drama in the SPT or in the
Same.
Scientology watching world for many, many years. And we've all made mistakes because we all got out of a very traumatic cult and none of us really learned the best like interpersonal relationships. None of us really, I mean, like I screw up a lot and I screw up with the
Mhm.
people typically closest to me. Um, Whoops. So the weird thing is I got approved for this. I want to say I think it was after they kicked Aaron off the board, but no one had said anything yet.
like
And
hours before this all came out.
yeah, and so that's where I started feeling really, really, really weird. I'm
Mhm.
like, is because the little birdies out in the SPTV X community world were saying the aftermath has an excess of funds. They
Mhm.
need to spend funds. Now, you can look at that as like a shady thing, fine. But no, if a nonprofit organization makes a bunch of money, they have to spend a
They have
bunch
to
of
spend it.
money.
Yeah.
Um, and I suspect there's some pressure that maybe shines some light on their practices that they kind of had to kickstart some things into action. And the fiscal year is ending. And so, my son, like I said, like he goes to college next year. So we are actively filling out college applications. We're actively working on that in general.
Mhm.
So, um, anyway, I was just like, fill this out. And he filled it out. And the next day they approved. And then I think it was like the next day or hours later that Aaron was off the board. And
Mhm.
I don't like that. I'm so grateful. And I don't want to risk my child's, education or like anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm torn, I'm really torn. And I'm going to accept the money. I actually texted Aaron almost right away and was like, I'm taking this money. And he was like, okay.
I'm not telling
Um,
you that I'm not taking this money, but
yeah, yeah. He was like, take it.
yeah.
It's for
Yeah.
you. It's for your family. That's what we're
Right.
here for. Um, anyway, so hold on, I'm gonna cough.
Okay.
Shit.
Oh no. That was a big one.
I'm gonna try not to die. Uh-oh. Once I get started, you're gonna have to carry us for a minute.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I don't are we kind of wrapped up? Okay, you took off just me, just me. Sorry guys. My the sunlight is coming in this room. I have windows all around and I haven't been in here to see since the time change to see what the lighting is like, so I apologize for this crazy lighting. One thing I did want to say about all of this is that Liz and I are not here to disparage or criticize any one individual or take a side. Liz gave us a lot of information, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of speculation, and we can speculate about things all day long. I think the important thing that we both want to convey is the nuance of this situation between Aaron and the Aftermath Foundation. And this has brought to light a lot of concerns that not only viewers of SPTV have, but also Scientologists, ex Scientologists, and especially second and third generation, and the people that the Aftermath Foundation was designed to help. This has brought to light some issues. And we should be able to discuss those issues and have criticisms and be open about those criticisms without fear of being shut down or canceled or accused of wanting to disparage or criticize specific individuals. Criticism, I'm so sorry, Liz.
Thought I muted myself and then I realized I just coughed like right. Sorry, everybody.
Criticism doesn't mean we're calling people bad people. We're not even saying like the Aftermath Foundation is super shady or don't support them or don't follow Mike or don't follow Claire or don't follow Aaron. We're not saying anything like that. We're saying there are issues. Let's not have this be like just a huge drama fest to where we don't address any of these very real issues. I think that with YouTube and SPTV, no one was anticipating the success and the number of viewers involved with this. I don't think Aaron ever planned to have so many subscribers in such a big community. And I don't think the Aftermath Foundation and the board members planned on having such a big community and being in the spotlight in terms of social media, especially after being in traditional media for so long. And I think there's an aspect of this as well of not being social media literate and not knowing how to handle crises and criticism and That also sounds like something that might happen when you leave a cult, when you're in the process of healing, and everybody being at different levels and different places in their healing journey. We're going to run into these
Uh-oh. She can't glitch out.
as like people that are public facing. Can we can we take what we need to take from this, discuss it, and see what those empowered do with that? See what Aaron does with this and how he evolves with his criticisms. See what the Aftermath Foundation does is how they evolve with their criticisms. And part of that is people like Liz sharing her criticisms and being heard. And when you do that privately, for a time and don't really see any change, I think it's completely fair to then do that publicly because so much of this has been made public, and that just is the way it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. Wow. I really do.
You're good. You let me go on a rant. I love
it. I'm so glad you're here. And I believe everything you said was spot on. That's why I love you. I don't want to just stop right here though, because I think we should address the specifics in the letter, if everybody's okay with that. Like I said, you guys don't have to be okay. You can just move along. But I think because in particular, this is what stuck out to me. And this is the part where I would strongly encourage the Aftermath Foundation. I'm not going to write another letter. I'll tell you that right now. But I will say, I will strongly encourage the Aftermath Foundation. I'm sure they already have considered this, to change this. This is so triggering. Who decides what high moral standards are? Who gets to have that power? Who decides what traditional values mean? And so how did you feel when you saw this?
So when I initially read this, I was very concerned, just because some of the things that you and I know, like nothing crazy, just things that we know about people. I wondered if the Aftermath Foundation had really strict or high like moral values or traditional values that maybe not everybody else has, right? Like that they're concerned about, or that they think everybody else is concerned about, but they might not be. And so I thought that might be the case. When I saw this, I was like, that's really bad. And that looks really, really bad from anyone leaving a cult. And especially Scientology, because that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing with the cult, is you are expected to adhere to strict traditional values, moral values. It is often vague in the cult. There's not often like specific rules, and vague language can lead to a lot of problems. I did hear Aaron in one of his videos say that this was put in there as just kind of a template. Like there wasn't that much care and thought put into this, which made me feel slightly better about it in some ways and worse in other ways. Because he was like, this was just standard, like we slapped that in there to have this paperwork done and established. But having such vague, triggering language in the documents of the organization associated with helping people leave cults is not okay. Not good. This absolutely needs to be evaluated, and some more care needs to be thought about. And I can understand not wanting to put the foundation in jeopardy and to put things at risk, but we need to be specific about what that might be and what that might look like and what is and isn't allowed.
I completely agree. It seems very boilerplate. It seems boilerplate from like maybe when the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Yes, exactly.
The part that it's sad because it's very hard to see. I put it in that bright blue. One of the little clauses in there that stuck out to me was reserves the right. And at this point, I'm not going to tell you all everything I know because I just can't. But there's a lot that hasn't been said out there. I will guarantee you all that. So for us to think that we know why people made certain decisions is we're probably going to be proved wrong.
Yeah,
So
we have
yeah.
truly, we have no idea. I just had my speculations.
Well, yeah, well, and that's fine. I love that.
Yeah,
But it's the only things we can kind of go back to are these things.
yeah,
My main concern is that someone who needs help will look at these things and they will not ask for help. I
right.
know three second generation Scientologists who need help right now, and they refuse to ask the Aftermath Foundation for help
Yeah.
because probably, and they got me with the kid thing. I'll tell you that. And granted, this is gonna come full circle. I know I sound like I'm like being extremely critical of the Aftermath right now. I hope you all stick around to like, let's come
Yeah,
full circle here.
there's more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can actually, I have to make my screen bigger to read this. This, though, is the ethical teamwork principles. If you guys remember Aaron talking, he said, actually, I don't know if it was Aaron, but basically, once they hit a certain amount of money in their holdings to like get renewed, they had to have they had to have something in the bylaws. I can't remember. But this
Mhm.
ethical teamwork principles was not required. And so, oh, that's my husband saying he loves me, everybody.
Aw.
Uh, um, so a lot of these I really think are great, but the one that most Aaron was focusing on was the competition, I believe. No, cooperation.
Right.
Refrain from publicly disparaging another person or organization engaged in charitable activities similar to those of the Aftermath Foundation. I think again, our problem just becomes with vague language.
Mhm.
Um, if I cannot criticize and ask questions, I am in a cult.
Yeah. That
Sorry,
that
that or I'm under some sort of
100%
coercion.
that 100% stood out to me, and the fact that again, the fact that it's not specific, because
Right,
who is deciding what is disparaging?
right.
Um, because to be disparaging, it has to be not true. But we know that I know coaches in the business coaching industry that are extremely culty leaders and gurus that make all of their clients sign non-disparagement agreements, like not
Wow.
non-disclosures, not NDAs, but non-disparagement agreements
Mhm,
when they sign up to work with this coach. And then
mhm,
that is used to bully them and threaten them with legal action when they want to share a bad experience. So disparaging and criticizing aren't even the same thing, but what happens is these little lines, and what's hard for me is we saw this happen. Like this is
mhm,
essentially what, at least what Aaron says happened, is
mhm,
this little like clip was used
mhm.
to say you can't say that.
Right,
You can't do that. You can't say those things, when he was sharing his personal opinion
right.
on a situation. From what I've gathered, from what we've heard from Aaron and others, that's what I understand to have happened. So you can't have something so vague that is then used to scare people into not sharing criticisms. We have to be able to criticize. Criticism is what keeps this a healthy environment. Criticism is what makes this not culty and not toxic. No one's going to be perfect. And no one
No,
is expecting anyone to be
no.
perfect. I think it's absolutely fine to understand that and like
Mhm.
know that people are going to mess up.
Yeah,
However, you have to, the way that you behave when that is brought to your attention is more important than whether or not you messed up.
I completely agree, which kind of brings me to this live. Now,
Mhm.
I want to hear your thoughts on this, and I want to say something. Actually, let me before we go here, let me show a little clip if you guys don't mind. Let me see if I can do it.
Ingrained in my way of viewing the world that I don't know I'm ever going to get rid of.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I believe that the thing that Scientology takes away from you is compassion, real compassion for others. And I have tried to cure myself of a lack of compassion. And I don't believe that I look at people these days with the same lack of compassion that I did when I was really inside the mindset of Scientology.
Okay. I
Oh.
put that up there because I kind of want to preface this conversation with a few questions. Oh, by the way, I don't know if we'll read these, but there's some really horrible comments on that live, and we can talk about it in a second. But
Yeah.
actually, before we get to this, I should point out this. All those executives on the board underwent torture. And I don't say that lightly. They were tortured. They were locked up. They had food withheld. They had sleep deprivation. They had hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours of indoctrination forced upon them to behave exactly in the way that we saw them behave. Now, I have been out of Scientology for a number of years. And if I get triggered, oh, you'll see my Scientology. My Scientology will show. And I don't love that about myself. I really
Yeah.
don't. I wish I was more healed. I wish I was a fuller person. I wish my self-worth hadn't been, desecrated as a child, and I still don't have to work on that. I wish it was easier,
Yeah.
but it's not. And
Mhm.
so, just for the sake of compassion, before we start talking about this live, I really do want us to focus on, not focus, that's the wrong word, just consider, if you guys wouldn't mind considering Liz Gale's weird thoughts about this. Are they allowed to make mistakes? Are they allowed to be triggered and to behave in a way that is unbecoming? Because
Mhm.
I do sometimes. And
Mhm.
most of the SPTV creators, especially like the younger folks, we are not shy to tell you that we got messed up.
Mhm.
What's different about Claire? She was in Scientology when she was like 4. What's different about Mike? Why do they not get any grace?
Mhm.
And I don't have an answer for you. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. I see it happening. And I was so triggered by this live.
Yeah.
I saw them as the Scientology executives that they had been. And my
Mhm.
trust, my compassion, it flew out the window. My body tensed up, my heart started beating, and I thought, how stupid was I to take money from these people? How
Mm.
stupid was I? And that, though, was my Scientology showing. Once I
Yeah.
kind of calmed down and I thought about it a little bit, I realized, I don't know. I guess what you said, like people can make mistakes. It's what happens from now.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, what did you think? Tell me your thoughts about this life.
I think they were very triggered. I think they had planned to talk about something else and realized really quickly that they were not going to be able to do that. I think that, like I said a little bit earlier, there's a lack of like social media etiquette or like social media literacy. And like the Aftermath Foundation doesn't have like a PR team, right? They don't have a marketing team. They don't
They
necessarily,
should
they
get a
should.
PR team, Aftermath.
PR would help a lot
Yeah.
when things happen. Um, some of those, some of the comments were really intense, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. Like some of them were probably overboard. Because really the important thing here is the people that the Aftermath was designed to help. And I know that like a lot of people who donated are also very concerned about what they're supporting when it comes to the people that the Aftermath Foundation was designed to help.
Yeah.
So I think it was a very triggered response. It was a very not thought through response. Mistakes were made for sure. And yeah, doubling and tripling down was not good. I personally don't love how they've handled this all the way through. And I can imagine from what I saw, it was bad. But what can imagine is that ex Scientologists would see that and would see Sea Org members and would be really, really triggered by that. And I think if you're going to have a foundation that's supposed to help those people, those optics need to be considered. They just absolutely need
100%.
to be considered.
Yes. Because now, what good would a foundation be? Like, they can rake in the dough, right? But it's a very select people that they can actually help. And if those people don't trust the organization,
Mhm.
then it's, doesn't work.
Right.
Just for funsies, I said I'm like not here to criticize, but there were some comments that I was like, I mean, this one. I worry that you guys will become the thing you are trying to save people from.
Yeah.
And for me, it's okay. Like, we all slip. But then we
Mhm.
have to like, say my problem was alcoholism, right?
Mhm.
It's not like I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna change my mind one day. That's not really
Mhm.
how it works. You need to be in an environment and you need to surround yourself with people who understand that battle, but will hold you accountable. And it's really
Yeah.
hard to do that if you're just sort of in a confirmation bias. I mean, I'm making a lot of assumptions when I say these things.
But
Um,
also that's what the optics are right now. I think that's
that's how
what
it looks. Yeah.
general it looks like.
Yeah.
Yes. So if that's
Um,
different, then there needs to be people addressing this.
right. This comment really, I could have written it myself if I had been brave enough. The vibe of this video felt cold and icky. It gets all of this. I get all this is gross and hard, but please don't act Scientology-ish. It's not who you are anymore. I
Yeah.
like you all enough to say it. You are better than this video. Peace
Mhm.
and love. And I think that for me, like, we can say what we need to say, right? Like, if my best friend in the entire world was making terrible decisions for her business, for something that I know is so important to her that she has spent years working on, if I'm truly going to be a friend, I would say, "Hey, babe, maybe there's
Mhm.
something else we could do here. Like, have you considered this?" And of course, we always run the risk of getting canceled.
Yeah.
Um, but I hope earlier in this video today, I was able to, like, paint a picture that, like, how important this is to me, how long this has been important to me, how I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I completely understand, and I agree with you, and I think that's important to know. I do also wanna say that I think, viewers of SPTV, like, this YouTube community is really smart. I think a lot of people are approaching this with the nuance it deserves. I think some people maybe are taking certain things into consideration and not others, and you're always going to see that. But I have been largely impressed with the community that
Mhm,
is here on YouTube and all of the people that show up and support these channels all the time. I think one of the biggest things that people are frustrated with is the lack of transparency as well.
mhm,
Like, it just feels like things are not there. There's the Aftermath Foundation in particular doesn't want to address certain things or talk about certain things or want to make them public. And I get that. I get where they're coming from, but it is public. And by choosing to be on YouTube and choosing to fundraise on YouTube and choosing to
mhm,
educate about Scientology on YouTube, it is public. So it has to be discussed. And
mhm,
I do think that's like the main issue that I see in the comments over and over is the lack of transparency. And that's what like I hope to see more of moving forward.
mhm,
And I will say, I made a video about this on TikTok just to see like what my TikTok audience, if they are SPTV viewers, like if they've
mhm,
paid attention, what people think about it. And people have been really bothered by Aaron and some of the things that he has done in the past.
mhm,
I was surprised to like it was more critical of Aaron over on TikTok than I've seen it over here. And I think that's because Aaron has such a big audience over here and a
mhm,
lot of people that are very, very loyal to him. And he kind of started all of this SPTV stuff.
mhm,
And I get that. I am extremely impressed though with
mhm,
Aaron's willingness to be vulnerable and transparent. And, I mean, a lot of us, talk behind the scenes and just the things that I've heard behind the scenes that Aaron has then said publicly. And the fact that they all match up is more than I can say for most creators
Yeah,
and
no,
most
that's a good point.
influencers. And
Aaron
I
has been kind to me for sure.
Yeah, and I really, really respect that. And I think
Mhm,
this is an interesting thing to see, right? Like you have someone who has done maybe some unsavory things or some not so great things, or someone who isn't afraid to be controversial, isn't afraid to speak their mind, is going to ruffle feathers, is going to make people upset. But the willingness to admit those things, address those things, be honest, be transparent, be upfront about it, you know what you're going to get. You know, you might get something difficult. You might get something unsavory. You might get something that you disagree with. But on the other hand, you have a foundation, a charity, something that is supposed to be doing things in a very specific way and doing things very well, and who aren't as controversial and aren't as difficult maybe to listen to or deal with. And then just by them not being transparent, there's a lot of tension there and a lot of distrust and a lot of concern. And the best thing that I think everybody can do moving forward is be transparent.
Yes, I agree. And for me as ex-Scientologist, for me as the people that this organization might serve, I need that. I need to see that people can revert into their trauma, into the way that they were, and then they can like recover from that, I guess. And this idea of the black and white, or like that anybody has to be perfect, putting anybody up on a pedestal because they are an influencer or whatever, is very, very, very slippery slope, very dangerous, in my opinion. So I certainly don't recommend anybody do that for any one of us SPT creators, because it's too much freaking pressure.
It is.
I don't know anybody who is an ex-Scientologist or ex-cult creator who's out here like, I've got everything figured out. If they are, they're like selling some course or something, and they're like an MLM.
Right. And it's just the same. Like, that's also just perpetuating the same shit. Like, it's just the same stuff. Yeah.
It's just the same stuff. And so I hear what you're saying. I think really for me, what it was such a stark comparison of the way that Aaron handled it and the way that the Aftermath members in that particular live, handled it. Yeah. And I mean, whatever, people can do whatever they want, but I think when we saw those two things side by side, it was disturbing. And it really, I think that Aaron ended up like PR victorious in this particular battle. And that's sad for me, not because because I don't want to see winners and losers. Right. Like, I want everybody to feel safe to go to the Aftermath Foundation and get their kid a scholarship, or get that help that they need. Or, like I said, I have friends who
could use the help, and this foundation could do really good. Yeah.
And
we don't want to take sides. This is not like, we don't want to. When I first saw Aaron's video, I got emotional right off the bat, because I was like, oh no, mom and dad are fighting. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, it literally felt like mom and dad are fighting. What do we do situation?
And will we have a home anymore? Will SPTV exist anymore? Will we all be forgotten? Will all of our hard work and sharing be for nothing because these board members can't get along? And I would say no. I don't think that's the case.
I want to address that really quick, that the question that popped up, what do you think about them deleting comments? I also think that's awful. Like, I think that, I think that's a bad move, and something that people, so like, I really like that you brought up being triggered, because this is why media literacy and like PR is important if you're going to be public facing. Because that's human nature, right? Deleting comments is very human of them. When you feel like you're being attacked and you weren't prepared to take that on, you might go through and start deleting comments, and like, you might not know what to do, and you just react. So again, I don't think that people are intentionally being horribly malicious. I think that's just a very human reaction that was not right, because you're silencing people, you're silencing concerns, and it's fair to have concerns and it's fair to criticize. So it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I wish they hadn't done it. but I'm sure it was a triggered response.
Well, and I think I agree. And I think as humans, is there anybody in the chat who can't identify with that? I mean,
Yeah.
like, if you're somebody who has never been triggered and never gets triggered, then give me your secret, because
Mhm.
I don't know anybody like that. And
Mhm.
again, like you said, they're attacked, or they felt attacked, I guess we should say, or people were
Mhm.
asking questions that they weren't prepared. I don't know why they went on a live thinking they could just talk about a cake and everything would be fine.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
again, if they had had a PR team, and this is where that diversity comes into play, right? Like, we need to
Yeah.
know when we're close enough to the problem or the situation that we could get triggered. And we need to
Right.
put checks and balances in
Yes.
ourselves. That's why I guess I was talking about the alcoholism earlier. It's like you get a sponsor, you
Right.
have these people in place that you trust and trust you and say, "Hey, we need to chill out for a second."
Yeah.
You know? And just like before, when I lost everything to Scientology and I couldn't think and I couldn't focus.
So I was laughing at you. Like, I am perfect.
Okay, well,
I
touche,
believe you there,
touche.
actually.
Um, I forgot what I was saying because that was actually so funny. Oh, the checks and balances. To me, that shows maturity, that shows
Yeah.
emotional healing, and it does show professionalism.
Mhm.
If I was gonna be their PR person, I would say, well, we can talk about that in a minute, because I have a couple, this is what I wanna bring up today,
Okay.
these things, and then we'll get to some comments. Are people allowed to make mistakes? Are all ex-cult members redeemable, even though they perpetrated abuse, right? That's
Mhm.
been a topic of conversation on the internet lately,
Yeah.
is we are dealing with people who were executives in the Sea organization. They
Mhm.
lived, breathed, slept, were abused, were indoctrinated,
Mhm.
and they did horrible things on behalf of Scientology.
Mhm.
Does that mean that they aren't redeemable? Even if they come out and they make a show and they change all these lives and then they start an organization and then they make a mistake? Does that
Mhm.
mean What does that mean? Um, I wanna know if ex-Scientologists, besides the ones I know, if they trust the Aftermath Foundation, because
Mhm.
to me, that's the most important thing. Are people going to ask the Aftermath for help? I
Yeah.
honestly don't have answers to any of these questions, you guys. I'm not, like, up here like, "Let me tell you." I
Yeah.
genuinely don't know. I'm
Yeah.
trying to navigate through the same world that you guys all are, and again, I tried
Mhm.
to show, like, how involved and invested I'd been for a long time. Um, and then, what happens if somebody goes to the board and the people who were on the board were directly responsible for some of the pain that they suffered? What then?
Yeah,
What
right? I can't imagine. That seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yes. And so,
Like,
can a board of all ex-Sea Org executives effectively represent and help the entire ex-Scientology community? I don't know.
yeah.
My heart tells me no.
Yeah.
If I was sitting down with them, like I said, I'm not writing another letter, but if they asked me, I would say, every couple on the board, pick one person. Pick one of you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
those other spots get filled with trafficking experts, psychologists,
Mhm.
anybody
Social
else.
workers, like, any outside input, non-ex-Scientologists along with ex-Scientologists.
Exactly. Because
Maybe
Scientology,
someone the board has helped, like, I don't know. I don't actually don't know how that works. That
I
might not
don't
be
have the
this.
answers, like I
I'm not
said.
an expert in this,
I
but
just think something could happen.
yeah.
And I wanna know, does what you guys like, what you think, Cassie Marie, and also what the people think in the audience, like, does the aftermath, and when I say the aftermath, I'm talking about, I guess, specifically the board of directors, more
Mhm.
specifically the ones that were on that live, Claire, Mark, and Mike, just because they, like, represented the face of it in that moment. And Mike in particular, the whole keyboard warrior thing, um, you know, we all know how that went down. A lot of people were, like,
Mhm.
really, really upset because those keyboard warriors raised thousands of dollars for his cancer,
Mhm.
while some of them have family members who have illnesses, who need help,
Mhm.
and they offered that support. So do you think that the Aftermath owes its stakeholders an apology? And do you guys think that the Aftermath, do they owe Aaron an apology? What do you think, Cassie Marie?
I definitely think apologies would be a good start. I actually do think they
Okay.
owe apologies, especially to the stakeholders. I don't know how necessary or unnecessary an apology to Aaron is, just because I'm still so confused about all of that, and I think we all are, and I don't
There's
think
just
we'll
more to
ever.
the story.
Yeah, like, and I don't
Yeah.
know that we'll ever not be super confused about it because we're not Aaron and we're not Mike and Mark and Claire and everyone else on the board. Like, we actually weren't present for any of those conversations. We don't know what happened. So, like, I don't know if I'm 100% going to say they owe Aaron an apology.
Okay.
I mean, but I don't think it would look bad if they were like, "I'm sorry how we went about this, and we see that this was like, really wrong." If they want to add Aaron in there and say, "We're sorry for how we treated you during this," I think it would go a long way. I think people would appreciate it. I think Aaron would appreciate it. Again, unless there's some other information that I don't have, which I'm sure there is. So excluding any other additional information that we don't have, I think yes. But who
Right.
knows? Like, also who knows?
Right. I think I tend to agree. I mean, I can't speak to the whole Aaron thing,
Mhm.
a board, there's also the fact that like a board of directors should be able to vote people on and off. Like
Right.
there's a system for that exists. But when you start saying it's because of traditional spiritual values, it gets a little weird.
Yeah, that
Real
is
quick.
just wild. I do want to address one thing. I saw someone say, I don't know if I can find it. They basically said, um, 3 straight couples on the board is not diverse. I can't even find it now. But I did want to address the LGBTQ aspect of this because a lot of ex-Scientologists are LGBTQ
Yeah.
members that were horribly traumatized by
Yep.
Scientology. There it is. Thanks, Marilyn. Did Marilyn do that?
She did.
I think having somebody not in a straight hetero relationship or an expert in healing and therapy and trauma for those specifically in the LGBTQ community
Mhm.
is super essential at this point. I think that's my aside from all of this, that is something that has been brought to my awareness through this that
Mhm.
I think is super important ASAP
Mhm.
because 3 straight couples are not going to have the tools and are not going to feel safe
Mhm.
um, to especially LGBTQ people leaving Scientology.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And it is that, diversity covers so many aspects.
Right.
Um, the most important thing for me, and I don't know if you agree with this for your personal experience, but I lost everything. And what I gained is invisible. What I
Mhm.
gained is the fact that I will never lower my voice or tell myself to be quiet for some other goals, for some other purpose, for some other coercion that I personally don't agree with.
Mhm.
And to then put those stipulations of having people to be quiet and like to have these traditional, like to conform, I guess it's just conformity, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
if we have to conform into a perfect little bubble that fits somebody else's expectation, then that's not safe. That doesn't feel safe to me. I don't know if it feels safe to you. I don't, but it doesn't feel safe to me.
Mm-mm. No,
So
it
stop.
doesn't. Let me check your notes. Maybe we should take some questions. I want to make sure I said everything I wanted to say.
Okay.
Oh no,
Um,
where's
you want to check your notes? Should we pull up some starred or do
Yeah.
you want us to wait for you?
Yeah.
All right, Miss Marilyn, should we go through these starred?
Or maybe we did already. I don't know.
No, there's a lot of starred ones here, I think.
Dun, dun, dun,
I don't know. She's saying something to me, but maybe I'll pull them up.
dun.
Maybe that's what she's saying. Oh, wait.
I did say everything I wanted to
Oh,
say.
okay.
My favorite thing about our lives is that we cover everything like naturally in the process of our conversation without me ever even checking.
We're pretty good about that. Oh, let's see. Is she saying something in there? Okay. We'll just go through these. Mother's Gowrie. I know I'm slaughtering that. I'm sorry. Being open is the way to heal. Thank you. Yes, I completely agree with this. And I think that there can be healing. And I think if other people choose to be willing to talk about it and look at it, then we can heal. But if things just stay like this, there's not much healing.
Yeah.
Prairie Farm Girl. I love how Liz spins a story and brings it to life. Thanks, babe.
You are a great
story. I wish I was telling somebody else's sad story of their sad life, but
oh no,
it's me.
Yeah.
No, I do not have an audiobook, Janet. In case you guys want to know more about my story, there are so many people in here, and I'm really trying not to look at the number.
I can't even see it, so I'm just
sure
over here.
How disgusting am I? This is my stress sweat, you guys. I'm telling you, this is not a joke. I'm like, don't think I'm disgusting. I'm just a human. I'm sorry.
You're literally gorgeous. I actually saw a comment earlier. I don't know if Marilyn started or not, but they said that they've envied your hair ever since they saw you on Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath. And same, because how do you even get that volume all the time?
That's sweet. Thanks. Thanks, Raj. Lara, we've never met, Liz, but I definitely love and follow you and hear you and get you. Thank you. As you guys probably know, if you don't, Lara is also a, I think, second generation born in Scientologist who's lost everything. So feel free also to go over to her channel and check her out. I like your style.
Please.
I like so many of us, I think, heal through art. And so it's really awesome to see people who are just like fully expressing themselves with art and like, I don't know, I really admire it. So. Oh boy. All right. All right.
Do you see
Liz, I knew your mother from the hi Sushi Full. Liz, I knew your mother from the handcrafted soap maker's hobby. I remember seeing your episode and sitting on the floor crying. She was so respected and I was taken in by her. Yes, my mother, I don't speak about her a lot. I try to kind of let her have her thing. She is she's in the handcrafted soap makers space. And so she has like a YouTube channel here and
interesting.
It's weird to me. I guess I'm just like processing this statement.
Yeah, you're like, wait.
Think about my mom. I'm just like freezing. I'm like, watch Scientology come out, guys. But yeah, I don't know. She has a lot to offer in the soap making community. So I don't know. I have to move on from this comment. Thank you, Sushi Full. I don't know how I feel. I'm gonna process that one. Blow drill. Hey, bud, I did not text you back before this. I ran out of time. 2018, people were definitely falling apart. The contributors got treated with little compassion. Yes. And, it was really confusing, too, that the Aftermath Foundation was called the Aftermath because the show was called the Aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just hard to like, is it only for people on the show or this or that? But I will say that the people who went on that show, we all fell apart. Mm-hmm. We like bled for you. I bled for A&E. I told them, like, just cut me open.
Yeah.
Win an Emmy and I'll just sit here broke.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi again. Any support network dedicating to trafficking or abuse usually has a wing dedicated to aftercare, more so than rescue.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is why Aaron's like, I'm going to start a foundation. Awesome. Why would anybody be upset about that? That sounds awesome. Like,
yeah.
Because imagine leaving Scientology and not just looking at one, but looking at many. It's just like SPTV. We're not supposed to all like it all. What would be the point of that?
Yeah.
Someone who watches certain content is not going to appreciate my content.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. You read these one. You read it.
Alicia RT, seriously refer to someone who can help if you can't. Yes. Like, would that be so hard? Maybe it would. Maybe we have no idea, but I don't think that's too much to ask to be able to have additional resources and not have to just turn people away. Because the reality is it's hard for anyone to ask for help.
Yes.
It is really, really hard, no matter what is going on in your life, to ask for any help. My husband and I have been in difficult situations before as well because of cults. My worst cult was in the business coaching industry, and we spent tens of thousands of dollars. And that messed up our life for a while. Like that money could have been a down payment on a house. It could have gone into savings. It really threw things off. And there's a lot of shame around that. And like there are times like we could have used help and we never asked for it because we didn't want, like we were ashamed. Like we were ashamed that like we could have used money for much smarter things. So no matter what, it's difficult to ask. So if you're going to ask and get rejected, I completely agree. There should be something, other resources, some kind of, like you said in your letter, bedside manner protocol.
Yeah. I had another one on there that I didn't put on the screenshot, but it was basically like a list, like, why can't there be someone in each state to help that person? Because if you were raised in Scientology, you probably don't know a lot about the services available to you out in the real world. Like, you know, food assistance. Sometimes there's cash assistance. There can be medical assistance. There can be things that help you with job programs. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And sometimes it just takes someone to help you navigate it because it can be really overwhelming and scary. And it sucks. But it really sucks if someone's like, well, why are you worthy of this help? And you say, well, this is the shit I went through. And they say, sorry, that's not going to cut it. And the unaliving rate, I don't like have the exact statistics, but I've known a lot of people who've unalived themselves within Scientology. On the Aftermath show, I also said that I had a problem with that when I was younger. So yeah, like just shutting the door in anybody's face can't be an option. Now that said, we're talking about 2018, right? We're talking about 2018, guys. So just so that was clear.
Things can have changed for sure.
Abdazzle, loving this perspective. Thank you, Liz. And Cassie Marie. Absolutely. Thank you. Jojo, I mean, let's put it this way. When people get out, they need help adjusting to the environment of the world, getting a support network, training, how to apply for scholarships.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I'll read one more, this one, because that was my name, and then maybe you can read a couple.
Sure.
Because I don't want to steal the whole thing. I'm here listening intently. Hi, Amanda, and holding space for Liz to tell her story. Thank you. All right. In response to this, I'm going to kind of go off on one for just a second here. It's very, very, very weird in this community for me, because I've seen now it's like, it's not just people like me out here. It's never ends. It's people commenting on our videos. There's trolls. It's just really weird out there. And so I really appreciate this. And I try not to be a clout chaser, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like dropping names. I do not tell other people's stories. You tell me something, it is in confidence. And I think most people who know me would know, like, even the things that I shared on here, I asked permission. Like, I asked Jenna, are you cool with me saying we're baby besties? I asked Mark, is it okay if I share our chat? I mean, maybe if they said no, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know, but
I don't do it.
I don't think I would. Those like relationships are really important to me. And so I guess my point is like, it's really weird out here. It's hard to know who's authentic, who's a clout chaser, who's here for the views. And so that's why I wanted to share more of my story when I got on here, to be like, I'm not just some rando chick that thinks she has an opinion about something she doesn't know anything about. I mean, I do have those too, but I won't.
I get to be the random with the opinion.
I love it. You're not a random to me, and you're not a random to 87,000 people on TikTok. So,
well, you're the opinion that matters in this situation.
Well,
I did
appreciate
want
that
to, I saw a comment go past just asking if, I don't know if there was like discourse in the comments, but just asking if debate is okay or if there are mods. We have Marilyn on the back end modding, and you can absolutely have
Please
discussion
debate.
or debate or criticism or bring something else up.
Yeah,
Please. Like, we would
do it.
love to discuss.
Mhm.
You want me to read this one?
I do.
Aura says they have quite a bit to learn concerning transparency. Yeah, I think so. And because I don't know like the root of the problem, like I don't know what it actually was,
Yeah.
it might just be something where a lot of people learn a lot of things from this. And like the best situation would be everyone moves forward from this having learned a lot and like making
I hope
changes.
so. Yeah. I
That'd be
mean,
the-
what the hell are we doing if we're not doing that?
yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
are we here? What's the point of getting out of a cult and then like evolving to a certain point and then just stopping? That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. It happens
Also,
because
Serge is here in the comments, and I freaking love Serge. And people were talking about Serge earlier and how much they love him. And he made a post about this like a day or two ago that I read, and like his words made me cry. Like the post was like so powerful. Go read Serge Delmar's community posts.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
so-
and I really respect, I don't want to speak for you, Serge. So pop off in the comments if you're like, Liz, shut up. But
Cassie and Liz, be quiet.
I value him so very much, and the specific, because there is not a mincing of words that occurs, you know?
Never.
The fact of the matter is, children were abused under the reign of the same executives that are running the Aftermath Foundation. That's a fact. It's not a criticism. It's not a speculation. It's just the way it is. And Mike Rinder in particular was in charge of all of the legal stuff in the United States from like, I don't even know, 1980 something on. So someone like Serge, who was, we're talking about Serge Delmar here, who was abused, was trafficked. How is he supposed to go to his trafficker and ask for help? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And if somehow in his healing, he managed to work that out, then I think, well, that live that just happened would have triggered all of us. What does ISTG mean?
I swear to God. Y'all are the best. I swear to God.
Okay. Love it. Yes.
Serge, you always use your words in a beautiful and powerful way. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. He really does.
Absolutely.
I also did. Oh, do you have more to pop up? I just can't see what's in the back end.
I know, right? I'm sorry. It's because I had to get you out of there so Marilyn could be in here.
Yes.
I'm a cheap lady. I only have one other person on the account. But just tell Marilyn anything you want to pop up also.
There was another one that was asking if Aaron helped start our channels that I thought it would be good to address.
Okay.
So if Marilyn can find that. Do you want to talk about
that?
Go
ahead. Yeah, I'll put this one up, Marilyn. If you find it, we can do it next.
Okay.
Jojo says, Liz, I like your idea of victim advocacy. To be honest, a social worker would be a great idea. On the Aftermath, they can help survivors adjust. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
something like that.
And the thing is, take this as a criticism if you want, but the board of directors as it is now they only know what they know. They don't, they don't even know what they don't know. None of us do.
Right.
So that's where that diversity comes in. That's where that, victim advocacy. So, did you find it, Marilyn? No, she's looking for it. Selena says safe pointing.
I think she commented that when you were talking about the scholarship and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I felt that way. I definitely felt that way.
Yeah. That would
feel like, what the hell? Well, and I have to tell you, it was very fast. I mean, he filled out, I had my kiddo fill out that thing, and within, I want to say 12 hours, I think he was the only applicant.
Yeah.
And he was approved, and I'm super grateful, obviously. But I did, as soon as that stuff with the Aftermath Foundation come out later, I thought, I don't know. I just wondered, like, did my integrity get compromised? Am I compromised? And that was just a big part of why I wanted to do this live today, is because I don't think it has to be either way, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I am compromising. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Let's not think about that one too hard.
Yeah.
Amy says, whoops, shoot. Good intuition. Wow, thank you. Intuition is one of those things that you're not allowed in a cult, right? Like you have to actually stifle your intuition usually. And so to have the luxury of being in the world and to have your own intuition and be able to act on that is a luxury that I do not take for granted.
Yeah.
Let's see. You want to read this one?
Below Drill says, not many conflict resolution skills being taught in Scientology to the children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I think that's another thing. I can go on a little bit of a tangent on this, just because I see it so much in the ex-cult, in every ex-cult space. Like if you don't, well, I mean, being someone who cult hopped, if you don't deconstruct what cults are and what the system that keeps you in the cult is, if you can't break that down and deconstruct it and understand it, you just go right back into it. Even if you were harmed, even if something happens. And the same is true for every ex-cult member in every new situation. If you don't deconstruct those systems and like constantly, basically for the rest of your life, pull apart everything you learned and everything you learned as a child, and you have to relearn all of it, which is part of why it's so hard to move on with life after cults, because that's so much work that your mind is going through all the time on top of the trauma, on top of everything else. If you're not doing that, there are things you haven't learned. There are things you don't know. There are ways that you're just naturally going to react. And I see it over and over again. I'm sure I've done it. Like, I'm sure I've done it.
I think I did it yesterday. Ask my husband. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, especially in personal relationships, like we see these patterns like repeating over and over. And that is like another criticism I have, is because these were high-ranking Sea Org members that are now like on the board of a foundation. Like, I just think that needs to be considered and addressed, and that we shouldn't forget that or overlook that. And that's something that they should consider as well. And when it comes to their decision making, because that's always going to be there. The programming is always going to be there. It just is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to speak on what you said, I got the impression that, I mean, I don't want to make Aaron out to be a saint, but I got the impression that he did give some pushback on some stuff. And if this is how pushback is handled, I don't know that that's the whole story, but I'm just saying, like, that's what it looks like. That's the optic right now, is someone questioned and acted a fool, and they're like, you're out, which is how Scientology acts.
So it's just
There's
things
a lot
to consider.
I know, right?
That comment did pop up for a second. Did Aaron help us start our channels? Not me. I had my TikTok and I made my YouTube channel, and I started doing YouTube more with Liz and Serge. Both Liz and Serge were like, let's do lives together. So
I know, I was like, hey, want to come in this SPTV space? And then I like talked to her later. I was like, okay, listen, this is gonna be a good show. Are you sure you want to do it? I warned you.
Yes. But I did not have help setting up. Like, I don't know what you mean by set up. Like, set up the back end, like get followers. I've never gone live with Aaron, but
I've gone live with Aaron. So sure, he helped me. I guess set up. I mean, I'm sure I definitely got subscribers when I went on live with Aaron. I've called Aaron. I've asked him for advice every once in a while. I wouldn't say we're like super close, but he's been responsive to me, and so I don't really know what set up my channel means.
I know. I just feel like we need a little bit more clarity on that, because you were on TikTok for a while before you came to YouTube also. Like,
I mean, I've been on TikTok for like almost 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years.
People keep telling me, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
What is it?
Just in big bold letters, and I've seen it thank you so many times. People are really mad that I'm saying back end, not backstage.
Oh, it's like the back end of a website.
I think back end is funnier. Thank you. Like,
That's
I
funny.
mean, it's fine. That's
Get your
hilarious.
words right.
No,
How dare
it's a
you?
dirty joke, which I'm
I
fine,
know.
which I'm also fine with. Like, that's also fine.
I think you should just keep saying back end.
I was gonna say, to be honest, I probably won't stop saying it because I have ADHD and it takes a lot to change the words that are just coming to
Just come
mind.
out. I know. Well, and being on a live is a weird sense of pressure too, because you're like
Yeah.
live. It's a
Back
little
end of the
stressful.
yeah. Yeah. I was in retail. I worked in restaurants. It was always the back end.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to get through some more of these comments here. I really think constructive criticism for the Aftermath Foundation is better than arguing on who screwed who to make it better for survivors. Let's focus on that. Yes. And there is a difference, right, between constructive criticism and just like completely attacking and demoralizing and dehumanizing people. I really hope that we have not demoralized or dehumanized anybody today. I mean, maybe we did. I don't know. Basking in it says, that's what I didn't like, the way it happened. It was very Scientology, like the way they handled it. And honestly, at this point, that's really the biggest problem. And it is something that they can come back from, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I look like I just took a big bong hit. Huh, poet? I was coughing. I actually specifically did not take a bong hit before I got down here today because I was like, that's going to mess me up.
We needed to be fully present for this one.
You're getting the best out of me, guys. Kelly, thank you for sharing that letter. Your voice is so important. Thank you. I really wanted to share that letter to show that, like, I've been around. I've been here for a while, and that I've been rooting for the Aftermath success, and I've been trying to, or I tried. I shouldn't say trying. I tried one time. So thanks, Kelly. You want to read this one?
Drive-In fan says 3 married couples being in control of the Aftermath Foundation board is a big red flag for me. Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest things I've seen people concerned about.
Yeah, I think we spoke to that. Like, this was probably from before, that diversity. Yeah. And diversity doesn't just mean, like, there's many ways to be diverse.
Yeah.
Right. Many, many ways to be diverse. And it's just so important that people who leave cults and high control groups are able to live their authentic self. I mean, otherwise just stay in a cult.
Yeah.
Begs the question, are people not considered not to have high moral standards not helped by the Aftermath Foundation? Well, I will say that clause came later than like the times that I said in 2018 people were rejected, but I'm sure that people have thought that.
Yeah, that would be a question.
Yeah. Yeah, not so good. Oh, Marilyn. By the way, Marilyn is our mod and she is slaying it. So everybody give Marilyn some love, please. Married couples and relatives serving on boards are discouraged in the nonprofit sector. Those that have couples often count as 1 vote per couple. Brilliant.
Yes, I have heard that. And so nonprofits can be very culty as well. Like corporate cults are a thing. And there are a lot of really culty nonprofits that operate in very concerning ways. And one of the red flags of a nonprofit is if you stack the board with friends and family members. Like if it's your closest lifelong friends that all make up board members, or your father, son, daughter, cousin, sister, those are all huge red flags for a nonprofit.
Yeah, well, because a lot of nonprofits, let's be real, a lot of nonprofits are not actually started to help people. They're started for money purposes. And of course, if you have certain, your besties all up on the board, you can decide to do whatever you want with the money. Right. I'm not suggesting that's what the Aftermath Foundation is doing, but that's the risk.
That's the concern. That's why people are concerned.
Right. And my concern is with the lack of diversity as to who is going to be able to get help and who's going to feel safe to ask for help.
Right.
That's my concern. We read.
Yes, Wendy, someone leaving Church of Scientology and being faced with a board who were all very senior members of Church of Scientology could seriously struggle with trusting them and asking for help. Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
like the theme of the whole thing,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So
Yeah.
well put, Wendy. That's it. Yep. Wow, this is such a smart take. Hey, we're smart takers. Woo!
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just what is needed to ensure this YT drama is actually constructive versus destructive to the cause and community.
Mhm.
I definitely didn't go into this live like trying to censor myself.
Mhm.
But I also don't want to I'd like to focus on the board members as board members and not vilify them as human beings.
Right. Well, and we have our own opinions and biases also.
For
Like
sure.
we have a perspective, we have our lived experience, and so we automatically are coming into this with our own opinions and biases. And I'm sure like people can tell that by the way that
Yeah.
we've talked, but also I think we both were considerate and trying not to make it about our opinions. Like this could be just a huge
Bitch fest.
yeah, yeah, of just like how we're feeling and what our opinions are. And there is a time and place for that. Like I don't think that's always bad either. Like I think that's
Find me on
also
TikTok and you'll see what I really feel. No,
right.
just
Like that's also allowed. Like that's also
Yeah.
allowed. It's also fair. If you don't like that, you don't have to follow that.
Right.
That's fine. But our goal for this was like, here's what we're seeing, and here's like how we think it can be constructive.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that comment. Mel says, I don't worship Aaron. I support him. I donated to Rinder's medical care and bought his book because Aaron boosted him. I don't always agree with him, but that's true of everyone. This is a brilliant comment.
Yeah.
There is a difference between, like you're saying, Mel, worshiping somebody and supporting somebody.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree with what everybody else says and believes. Heads up, that's what it's like when you're in a cult.
Right.
So, I love this comment.
I don't like a lot of what Aaron says. Like, there
Fair
are
enough.
a lot of times where I'm like, I don't like that. But like I said, I can really respect the transparency. And the one thing I can say is I feel like it's about as authentic as you get with a parasocial relationship and the standard basically for creators these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, and Aaron has been around also the whole time. You know, he was working on the Aftermath show. I know he doesn't speak about it and I don't want to call him out, but he also has a sibling that was lost to didn't make it out. And so yeah, we just all have our shit, you guys. We're just doing the best we can. But I do really like this comment because once we stop putting people up on a pedestal and expecting them to be perfect because they're on the internet or whatever, or they're on a board, I think we can be a little bit more forgiving with the mistakes that they make. It's like if you worship somebody and they make a mistake, you're shattered. But if you support someone and they make a mistake, it's a different feeling.
Right. And it's like,
how dare you get a phone call? How dare you? If you need to take it, do that. Open up a wound for the world and watch someone else get dressed up in a fancy clothes. Wow, Liz. Powerful, sending love. Thank you, Masty. Well, that's how it was. And like I was homeless for a little while there, but I do have a home now. But there are people still working on that struggle. There are still people who are just as triggered as they were when I was in my headspace where I couldn't learn anything new and I had to give up that job and I just like was a disaster. So yeah, you want to read this one?
Amy says,
I actually heard this one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, read it.
Okay. Can we all look out for Reese and make sure that this crap doesn't hit her in the face? Because I don't think she can take it. Oh, I feel very protective over her in search. Yes, everybody be nice to Reese.
Yes. She's caught in something. And like Reese and I have like casually emailed, so I wouldn't say we're close, but I would say she has been in the public eye since she got out. And that's very hard to do.
That is.
And we all give her so much grace because we understand. And so if you can access that grace in you for others,
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, look, grace. They get a lot of grace. But why haven't they shown any compassion in this instance? I don't know why people do what they do. Like,
Yeah.
I named this thing your Scientology is showing. Their Scientology is showing.
It is. And I
Show
will
that.
say that I give people grace and like expect to see changes to determine how I feel and what I do and how I support people in the future, right? Like we're not saying give them grace and just forgive and forget and move
Nope.
on and never talk about it. It's like give them grace, talk about them as humans, have like we will never let go of our empathy and our compassion, and I think we're also being very critical and like also
Yeah.
expect to see different things and changes in the future. And if not, like I don't want to interact with a foundation that continues to do the same thing over and over again and never listens to criticism and never changes. But like
I
this is
know.
our first big scandal, guys.
I know. Is it though? Is it though? There was the other one. There was
Well.
and to speak to that, like when the what's it called? Scholarship was granted,
Mhm.
we were asked, would you be willing to, promote this? And I
Right.
said that I would, but I declined on behalf of my child because he is still a child, and I can do that, and I did that. But I feel like I was in a weird spot because then, like right after this, like the day after or later that day or whatever, Aaron came out, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Amy, Goldie was triggering for me, and I don't want to get into this too much because that was a whole other thing,
That
but
was a whole thing.
that was so triggering for me. I left YouTube. I
Yeah.
left YouTube. And I'm sure I run the risk of getting canceled when I say this. I've thought about how to say it so many times, and I'm just going to say how I feel. I do not in any way believe any of the negative things that Goldie was posting on her social media. And I don't want to throw Goldie under the bus here, but things that are racist, things that are anti-LGBTQ, I do not stand for that at all.
Mhm.
That said, the way that she was handled, I was triggered by because I realized that SPTV was a space where if you had the wrong belief, and granted, I get why it was a wrong belief, you would be canceled. And
Yeah.
even though that's real life, and even though that's normal, and even though that's a thing, I was triggered.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say I was like MIA already when all of that stuff
yeah,
happened, and I only got like a little bit of information from you. You and I had talked about it a little bit, so I don't even know the full scope of it. Um, but I do know with that stuff, that is kind of a universal canceling situation. Like that is, and I know I like how you said that, but that can still be hard when leaving a cult like environment. That stuff still absolutely can be triggering.
it
Even
is.
when, like, in my opinion, like, I don't know if I want to say well deserved, but I also think that like things that are that egregious, I'm
Yeah,
just like done, no,
of course.
can't go there, can't do it, can't handle it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people were, and that's totally fine. Like
Mhm.
everybody, I get exactly what happened.
Right.
I think for me, maybe it's like my early childhood. There's such a difference to me in you are bad and you made a
You
bad
did.
choice.
Yeah. Mhm.
You did something bad. And so when I start to see that line of like you're bad,
Mhm.
it's triggering for me because it just is. Deal with it. I do.
Yeah. And also, like, that is really important to notice because I came from an evangelical cult. That's one of the cults that I was part of. And a lot of the people that I grew up with, a lot of family members, a lot of people I know, a lot of people my husband grew up with think that way, say those things, do
Yeah.
those things. Um, I always am against it. I always speak up. I
Mhm.
always try to help educate people, advocate for people. I don't agree with any of those things. And
Mhm.
that was all me and my husband knew for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, people are still people, and the best way to help people out of harmful belief systems is to show them and educate them how harmful it is. And
Yeah.
if you immediately make them bad people, they're never going to listen. And
That's where I was.
protecting the groups that they are offending is number one.
Yes.
And most important thing.
Absolutely. I'm not
Regardless.
advocating for her to have continued to be a mod or anybody.
Right. Yeah. And I know
Not
you're
at all. I'm just, what you said just really does. How would Goldie change? How would we have changed her mind? Like, that sounds probably very naive of me to say, but I don't know. I had wished again for like a different outcome.
Yeah.
I guess is all I'll say on that. And that I absolutely support everybody living the lifestyle and loving who they want to love and being who they want to be. And
for those people not to have to be subjected to
absolutely
that level of hate and
absolutely. And it must have been, I mean, I get how shocking and horrible it was to find out. It's like someone in our tribe is saying these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, that's a whole nother thing. I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
How about that?
I know Goldie's like the hardest to talk about. And like, we absolutely want to be as open and transparent and like share our opinions and welcome criticism in doing so as well. Cause it is just that's a hard thing to address. And I don't want to be misunderstood.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm sitting here saying that anything racist or homophobic, anything like that is okay. I do not think that. But I do think that real people have those ideas. And like when I was in Scientology, if you came up to me and you said, Scientology is a cult, you're so stupid for your beliefs, I would not listen to you anymore. Yeah, there was nothing for me there. And so we're still talking about it.
Okay, we're done.
And it is this. Of course, mistakes are allowed. It's how they're accountable after those mistakes are made, though. Let's see where the next 30 days takes us. There does need to be change.
Absolutely.
100%. And so this is kind of where it's like, what are you going to do now, aftermath? The community has spoken. We have spoken. People like me who've been around for a while have spoken. Please evolve with us, grow with us. Otherwise, we're going to leave you in the dust. That's how it goes.
Take it all into consideration, please.
Exactly. I'm not sure that we can get to all of these because we're running almost at 2 hours. So I'll get some here, but I definitely want to talk about Kellycopter's music. Hello.
Yes.
So good. I listened to the whole song. I was like, yeah. I thought it was going to be a parody song because she was like, I'm going to release some music. And I thought it was going to be one of the parodies, but it wasn't. It was so beautiful.
No, I actually had set my phone down. I was Christmas decorating when I was listening to her video, and I left the room to get something and came back and like heard a song playing. And I was like, I was watching Kelly. What's going on? So like I picked it up and I was like, why? Like, what is this? It's so good. And then I like rewound it a little bit and she was like, oh, it's this song I made. And I was like, yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
So cool.
And I love it. Like that's another representation. I think we're going to see some really, really cool art, coming out of this community, and people heal in such different ways. But art, I think, is a pretty universal.
It is. I think that's the best part of it.
Okay. I think we only actually have like maybe 5 more. You want to read this one?
Yes. I love watching Aaron, and he's a strong advocate, but in no way does he appear mature enough for a board seat anywhere. Hope his ego will let him continue supporting the Aftermath Foundation despite not being a director. I can understand that. That was a lot of what, I mean, I feel that way about Aaron sometimes too, for sure. And that was a lot of the comments that I got on my TikToks. People were like, his ego is wild. So like,
well, his you done messed up AA run is, it is funny and fitting because he grew up in a cult and he has not navigated all of his interpersonal relationships and community relationships or whatever perfectly. Surprise.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, John. I'm just like, I totally agree. And I see how it got there.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point. Will you read this one too?
Yes. How to throw someone under the bus, but claiming to take the high road. No, they did not take the high road. They wanted us to believe the worst about him. I mean, it definitely felt that way.
Fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like they went in there with the intention of talking about the cake, not wanting to deal with the topic, and then were pressured into it and were emotionally triggered and gave an emotionally triggered response that was not ideal.
Mhm.
Right? Like, welcome to the human condition, folks. This is what we do.
It is.
Yeah. I'm not gonna read that one. But we got a hey from Roberta Blevins.
Hi, Roberta.
Hey, she has the Life After MLM podcast, and she
Yeah.
just released an interview with me. So
Yes, I saw that come across my TikTok feed, and I was like,
yeah,
my friends.
yeah, it was so good to talk to her and like very easy. So anyway, hey, Roberta. I think we got
That's probably
through.
all we have.
Yeah,
time
and I
for.
think we're right about at the almost 2 hours, which I think is the longest live you and I have ever done,
Yeah.
like ever. So,
There was a lot to
um,
discuss, and there's more to discuss, and I'm sure there will be more to discuss. But I think this was a good way that we can kind of look at this and see where do we go from here. I hope.
yeah, I hope so. I hope that we've painted, I don't want to say a picture because I'm not trying to like convince anybody to like see it my way.
Just shared
us-
our perspective.
Yeah, our perspective. I was, like I said, feeling really nervous. I don't feel as nervous anymore. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you guys have been great. Thank you for commenting, and thank you for debating and putting up with me saying the back end repeatedly.
Exactly. All right. Well, I don't think I've got anything else to say about it. Do you?
No.
All right.
We covered all my notes.
All right. Well, there's a ton of people here in the live, and I tried not to look at it because it's kind of overwhelming. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm so glad that you guys watched for all the way to the end. That feels very wonderful to me. Please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Liz Gale Gale. I don't know how many lives, like a lot of my content isn't like this. So check it out. See if you like it. If you don't, cool. If you do, subscribe. I say the same thing for Miss Cassie Marie. In the description of this video is her TikTok, her YouTube. My TikTok, you're maybe on my YouTube, but my YouTube's there if you're watching on Cassie Marie's. And also a link to my book. I didn't talk about it a ton, but I wrote a book called Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead. And that title alone is why you will never probably see me on the board of directors of the Aftermath Foundation. Because I do not live by traditional spiritual values, according to some people. And I love it that way. That was my independence. That was my FU to the world. Not to the world, but.
Liz's book is amazing. You need,
please,
if you haven't gotten it yet, get it. It would make a great Christmas gift. I've heard Daniela Mestinik Young, who is a scholar of cults and extreme groups, grew up in the Children of God cult, and got out when she was a teenager. She said that you need to read, oh gosh, what did she say? 5 or 10 cult memoirs to start seeing patterns of what it's like being in a cult. So if you have family members or anything that's interested, memoirs tend to be like really interesting and like more conversational. And I think it would make a great Christmas gift.
Thank you. It is very easy to read, and it's not like any other Scientology, ex-Scientologist memoir out there.
Yeah.
So,
yes, Roberta, we do need to chat.
You guys are gonna hear my dog crying now. Puppy. All right. Well, we'll get out of here. I'm gonna go walk my dog.
Yup. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody. Everybody give love to Marilyn.
Yes, and Peggy. Somebody else was back there too.
Yes, actually, I need to thank her also. Oh, I'm trying to get my dog up. Sorry. This is my dog. All right. Okay, yeah. Thank our mods and Peggy. Is that Peg?
I think Peggy. Yeah.
Yep. There she is.
Thank you.
I'd love to catch up with you. Okay, I'm clicking the off. Bye.
Bye.